The FujiCast is an independent Loading Zone production.
Kev, have you come back a zillionaire, or did you lose all your money at Cheltenham?
I lost all my money.
Oh, Kev, you'd think by now you'd be better at this game.
Well, I've been going for, we were trying to figure it out. It's either 9 or 10 years we've been going.
Oh.
And with the exception of the COVID year, or 2 years, or however many we missed. I don't think I've ever had come back with more money in my pocket than I went with.
Are you too embarrassed to tell us how much you managed to?
No, it's not a lot. I mean, I'm not a gambler. I don't kind of believe in that, but I take about 100 quid to me for my Cheltenham day out. Yeah. And if I come back with more or less that in my pocket, then it's been a good day. But yeah.
That wouldn't buy you one round of drinks at the bar with the amount of boys
No, that's for putting on the horses.
Oh, yeah, I see.
And there's only 5 races. Oh, is it 7 races? Remember?
I don't know.
There's only a handful of races, yeah. So they're like every half hour. First one's at 1:30. Yeah. Last one's at 5:30. Yep. It's a bit of fun. It's good fun.
What race was Star in? Did Star appear in any?
No, but I might put her in there because some of the prize funds, they put it up on the screens there. You wouldn't see it on the telly, but while you're there, they put it up because a lot of people who are interested in actual horse racing. Yeah. And like the lowest level race on the Wednesday that we went, the winning horse got £78,000, or the trainer got £78,000.
£78,000, Kev.
Yeah, just for running around for 4 miles.
Yes, sell a Brazilian presets to get to that mark.
The FujiCast.
Oh, what about is there still a prize for the last horse?
I think they all get something, yeah. I don't think you get anything if you fall off.
No, but I just let Star chunt around with Rosa on the back and collect your 5,000 quid at the end just for coming last.
It's pretty brutal, I have to say. When they fall, I don't like it. I don't like watching them fall.
No. Well, just tell
none of them were injured this time, which is good.
Tell Rosa to just steer around the jumps. Anyway, welcome to the FujiCast. Here we are again. If you'd like to have a question on the show, then there's 2 ways to do that. You can send it via Facebook, and Kev is in charge of that. Kev, how do we do the Facebook questions?
You go to Facebook, go to the FujiCast Facebook group, and you go to the pin thread at the top of the post that says questions for the show.
And if you want to send it by email, then it's click@fujicast.co.uk. On the show today, Christina Varoxina, who is, she shoots fashion. She also has this project, Kev, where she works with self-portraiture, which I want to talk about as well. Have you ever done a self-portrait, Kev? Is there a gallery of Kev self-portraits somewhere hiding out?
No, we've all done self-portraits, haven't we? We've all done selfies and all that kind of stuff, and tested a lens and all that. So in that respect, yes, but no, I don't have the face or the wide enough lens to do it.
Oh, Kev, you do yourself a disservice. Stop it. Do we have a book of the week, by the way? I didn't ask you when we were setting up for that. No book of the week.
No,
but we do.
Unless you want me to read Mind Over Muscle.
Mind Over Muscle
by Jigoro Kano.
I don't know that book. What's that?
No, you won't. It's the biography of Jigoro Kano, who is the founder of judo.
Oh, how old is judo?
Kind of late 1800s kind of was the jiu-jitsu thing generation, and then judo kind of came in the early 1900s. Right. And kind of pretty young, really.
Did jiu-jitsu come first then? I always thought that was a modern martial art.
No, jiu-jitsu is kind of the granddaddy of them all, really. But not that Brazilian jiu-jitsu, the modern stuff that all the hipsters do. They just roll around on the floor naked.
What?
Proper jiu-jitsu, standing up jiu-jitsu.
What's the naked one, Kev?
Just type it in. Type in Brazilian jiu-jitsu. Or just if you want.
I'm not sure if I want to do that.
See it.
Because our Chrome is shared around the house. They'll see what we're all looking up.
Brazilian jiu-jitsu is what Scott Johnson does.
Oh, does he do it naked? Brazilian jiu-jitsu. But they're not naked, Kev. They're all wearing suits on this one.
Yeah, some of them wear suits. Some of them like to get their muscles out.
What?
Basically, Brazilian jiu-jitsu is judo without the standing up bit.
Right. Okay. Is it all a bit poserish then, that one? Is it?
No. I mean, they're very good athletes. I mean, a proper high-end Brazilian jiu-jitsu student, if you like, will be a very, very, very good athlete. Yeah.
Definitely. There's
it's not the fun part of it for me. The fun part is the throw-in and all of that stuff.
Oh, here we go. The Guardian wrote about it. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is a sport that is full of bravado and masculinity and strength. Oh, but also trust and compassion. Yeah.
It's a proper sport, yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if within probably the next couple of Olympics it makes it into the Olympics.
Really?
Yeah, and they'll probably kick out judo for it. They've already kicked judo out of the Commonwealth Games. Australia, they get to choose, don't they, what sports they can eject. So because the Commonwealth Games in Australia next, and they're rubbish at judo, Australians, so we won't have judo.
Well, just take that one out, boys. We don't want that one.
The Brits always win all of the medals at judo at the Commonwealth Games. So they're like, right, let's eject that one.
Right. Anyway, enough of this judo stuff. We've got a few people to thank. We've got some new patrons this month. Who do we need to thank, Kev?
We do. I am very quickly typing in Excel, and it will launch, and I will click on patrons, and I will say we have Gurmeet Singh Dangjal. Thank you very much, Gurmeet. We have Zishan Khan.
Ah, good old Zishan. Yes.
Yeah. And we have the latest person who has supported us on Patreon is Rampant Panda.
He's who, Kev?
Rampant Panda. And I think if you check your inbox, you'll see that one of the questions was sent in by a Rampant Panda.
Oh, yes.
So thank you to you three for supporting us on Patreon. Remember, if you do wish to support us on Patreon for the price of a coffee a month, you can do so, and you get the Patreon pop-up show, which will be available to our patrons immediately after the show goes live this morning, and we do kind of reviews and kind of slight critiques of stuff that they send in.
Kind critiques. Rampant Panda. There we go. I bet he does Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. That's for sure.
Sounds like it. Yeah, sounds like it.
He does. Shall we start with his question then? Since he emailed one in. Yeah. Hello, I've really enjoyed listening to your podcast, so much so that I'm considering buying you a coffee. Well, you already have Rampant. Do I call you Rampant or do I call you Panda? And 2 straws per month via Patreon. But I do need to clarify something. All the tiers of the Patreon state, Neil and Kev will love you forever. I need to know what kind of love this is exactly. And is there a difference in the amount of love between the tiers? Just to make sure. Thanks very much. Rampant. He's somebody taking a mickey. Somebody's made up an email address and they've put some money in a pot, haven't they? I
don't care. They can all make up their email addresses if they give us money.
I feel funny questions coming on. It's a very good question, though. Do we love people that spend more money, Kev, or do we love everybody equally?
We love everybody equally, because I think that's the way the world should be. Yeah. But secretly, we love people more the more money they give us. It's just we don't get any more physical love.
No. We have none to give. I'm all out of love, as the song went. Right, questions then. Let's get going with camera questions. I'm loving my XH2Ss, by the way, Kev. Very, very pleased.
Tell me about the focus switch.
No, that bit I don't love.
No, that's why I sent them back.
No, that bit. I knew it wasn't there. It was really weird, Kev. When I was actually shooting an event, and I knew the button wasn't there. We've talked about it so much, haven't we? This is the button that you can choose between manual, single shot, or continuous, isn't it? Focus. And so I knew the button wasn't there. It's always on the front, isn't it? And if you turn the camera towards you, it's in the right hand side, just down at the bottom, isn't it? And I knew it wasn't there, but I can't tell you. I was looking at this camera thinking, well, where's the button? Is it on the back? Is it underneath? My little mind would not accept that the button is no longer there and that you have to go through a menu.
Yeah, I couldn't get used to it, and that ultimately that was what did it for me. And I didn't quite like the. I couldn't get. Even though the electronic viewfinder is more advanced and better and brighter and all that kind of stuff, I just didn't like it. I found the XT and X Pro ones better. Anyway, I sold mine. Yeah. You bought yours, and everybody is happy.
Yeah, no, I like that bit. I do. The EVF is, I think, the best I've ever used in the Fuji film range.
Good.
Well, there we go. Everybody's happy. So, questions. You're going to go with Facebook first?
Yeah, I'll start. And as usual, I'll start with the most recent one, which was from 2 days ago. Daniel Kiss. Daniel says, question for the show. How would you start the process of asking somebody to mentor you? where to start, how to choose who to ask, how to evaluate that person is right for you. Thank you.
I'd be interested to know who's going to mentor.
Well, I don't know. I think that the question is he's looking for one,
right,
but doesn't really know the right way to kind of go about trying to find them.
I see. Right.
And I don't really know what kind of industry, whether it's presumably weddings. You don't normally get kind of commercial photographers. They kind of do assisting, don't they, and stuff.
Yeah.
Rather than mentoring. So yeah, I don't know. What's your thoughts?
Well, is it important to have a mentor? Do you need one? I'm really I'm sort of playing a bit devil's advocate here, so bear with me, Kev. But in the days when you didn't have YouTube telling you how to do everything, having a mentor, having somebody that you could trust to guide you through not just the technicalities of making new pictures, but to also look at the pictures that you've made, I would imagine was really important. But now, with all the knowledge availability on Tinternet, is it as relevant?
Yeah, I think you'd need to draw a difference between kind of technical help, if you like, and mentoring, as in business, kind of progressing through, whether it's critiquing images or talking about the business and marketing and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, to go back to what you said at the beginning, do you need a mentor? And then the answer is a flat no. You don't need to have one. But I feel like some people do get a lot out of it. And how that manifests itself is entirely up to the relationship between the mentee and the mentor, I suppose. Yeah. Do you want somebody, Daniel, do you want somebody who's essentially going to be your help in the corner kind of thing, showing them pictures and they say, think about the corners a bit more, don't like the processing on that, etc. Or do you need somebody who's going to, help you actually get the business up and running, talk to you about business practices, kind of the financial elements of things, all of that stuff, and you're looking more at a kind of business coach, I suppose, in that respect. So, how do you go about finding somebody? I don't know. I mean, I actually do mentoring for some people, but they just come to me. And I think that, you've just got to find people who you admire, you trust, and just reach out to them and say, hey, can you help me? Yeah. You should, if it's not somebody that you've got a kind of, very long-standing friendly relationship with, then you should expect to pay that person for their time and effort. But on the flip side, it could be somebody who is a local photographer or local business person who you've got an acquaintance with and might just say, yeah, I don't mind helping you out every now and again. Just pick up the phone, give me a call. In which case, there might not be any fees involved in that. Should
it be reassuringly expensive?
No, not necessarily. I think it depends entirely what you're looking for. If you go on Facebook is full to the rafters these days of business coaches. Not just photography business coaches, but just general business coaches, and life coaches as well. Life coaches. And those are very specific skills and talents that those people have that hopefully will enable you to enhance your life, enhance your business, and that's it's a commercial transaction between you and them. But if it's just somebody who I have lots of kind of relationships with different photographers who, I just look at their pictures, I just kind of speak to them, and they speak to me. They give me just as much back as I give them. So, how do you define a mentor, I suppose, is the tricky thing. A lot of people, like I said, they're commercial photographers, certainly kind of studio-based portrait photographers and stuff would they would cut their teeth by assisting photographers. Yeah. And that's technically, that was an assisting job, but almost definitely they would be a mentor along that journey.
It's funny. I also think that you, as you form friendships in this business and in photography, that you kind of end up in a light mentoring role or a mentee role anyway. I mean, I've always thought that my friend Giles mentors me without him even knowing it. Don't tell him, he'll send me a bill. And I think you do as well, Kev, actually. I've always felt that you, to me, are sort of in a bit of a mentor role as well.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about that, but I think we have a friendship where we can just say to each other, "Do you think this picture shit?" Or "How can I do this on Squarespace?" Or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's a friendship thing, and I think that's probably the same with you and Giles. But also, he has experiences that you haven't, that he can help you with.
Yeah,
and that's friendship, and I've been in situations where I've done a kind of transactional mentoring, and it's carried on, and we're now just good friends, and we chat, and we do things together, and all of that kind of stuff. So yeah, I mean, how would you go about finding one? First of all, I would sit down, Daniel, and I would, I'd properly ask yourself, what do you think you need from a mentor, in quotes? What is it exactly that you're looking for? Is it kind of the business side of things? Is it just somebody to look at your pictures? In which case, then you can kind of break that down. It might be you just need a critique. It might mean that you actually need a business coach rather than a photography mentor. But yeah, sit down and understand exactly what you need before kind of looking for it, I think.
I'd be very scared having a life coach.
Yeah,
I think they're looking at it and saying, you got it all wrong, Neil.
I spent a lot of time telling me to do things differently.
Have you had a life coach then?
No, I haven't. I think they'd be very busy if I did have one.
We haven't got time, Kev. Too many questions. Right. We've got a QQ here from Michael Marin about grain. Apart from imparting a nostalgic filmic look to digital images, are there other advantages to a little grain? For example, does grain contribute to a visual perception of object separation in the image or greater sense of depth? I think I see this with Acros compared to black and white, but I could be fooling myself. I read this question, I thought, I think you are fooling yourself, because I'm not sure that grain gives anything a greater sense of depth, unless it's muddying the image in some kind of way because of the amount of grain, but there's no reason why it should. I don't feel it would provide more object separation either. Do you?
No, I don't think object separation is a thing. So first of all, Acros does have grain built into the film simulation.
Yeah.
So if you are just looking at Acros and black and white film sims in a Fujifilm camera, you will notice some built-in grain. It's there. It's inherently in there. It's meant to be in there. I think it's a good question, because obviously, like film in the film days, that it's almost tangible, isn't it? And you kind of get that element of, this is a proper film print where the light is causing this in the sensitivity of the light hitting the film. But in digital world, you just tend to add it or try and remove it. But I quite like, I think when I saw that question, I did think about it a little bit, and I think that digital grain, digital noise, if you like, can enhance an image in terms of sometimes taking away that over digital look. It's a little bit like having the fake scratch noise on a record, on a CD, isn't it? You put a CD in, or on Spotify or something like that, and I think that gives it a little bit of
authenticity, maybe.
Yeah, I don't know, but it is fake, isn't it? So, but definitely in terms of soft, certainly if you're shooting with GFX 100s and 100 megapixel sensors and all that kind of stuff, adding a bit of grain can take away that very clinical look, just adding a little bit of softness to it. So there is kind of good uses for it. But yeah, overall, I think it's for an aesthetic point of view in the digital world, personally.
Do you still add much grain? I've come away from adding grain now.
Yeah, I do. Not so much with the wedding stuff, but I do for the wedding stuff because it's in the presets. But it's quite subtle. But I will eyeball them, and obviously what you have to remember is I don't use any kind of flash. So basically anything in the evening is quite high ISO anyway. So it's going to have that kind of natural digital grain, if you like. So yeah, I don't really go ahead and think, right, I'm going to add a whole load of grain to this. But when I'm doing the stuff in the studio, then I do. I think that gives it a really nice little finish. But your mileage may vary, isn't it? Some people love that rig.
Here's a question: when you then go to optimize it for, say you use something like, I don't know, Blog Stomp. What's the other one which I've used? JPEG Mini is the other one. When you've got grain and then you're essentially resizing the image and shoving it through JPEG Mini or Blog Stomp. Other ones are available. Does that does that then make the image look grainier? Or is there something that's not quite nice when you optimize a grainy image for web?
I wouldn't have thought so with any of those kind of tools. But yes, if you did it in Lightroom and you exported it at like 10% quality, then you would enhance, or the kind of grain would be more obvious in the image because the softness of the overall image itself. But if you're exporting, as most people would generally do it, if they're using something like Tiny PNG, is they would export at 100% and then stick that through Tiny PNG. And I would never, my age and little Welsh eyes would never see any difference.
Is that what you use then, Tiny PNG?
Yeah, with my age and Welsh eyes, yes. Tiny PNG. Tiny PNG is the one I use for resizing images for web. Yeah.
Oh, I never knew that.
Not resizing. That's the wrong word. I don't use it to resize. I use it to scale. I will export all of my images from my website at 2,500 pixels on the longest edge at 100% in Lightroom. Okay, so they're full size, 100% in Lightroom in terms of quality, 2,500 pixels on the longest edge.
Yes.
I then squeeze them up through Tiny PNG, and it keeps them at 2,500 pixels on the longest edge, but it usually the sizes are approximately 3/4 less in terms of physical megabytes. The scale of that.
That's doing the same then as JPEG Mini, essentially. It's
it's the same thing.
Different one. But this one, this one works with, which I don't, Blogstomp doesn't, that's for sure, which is a pain. I don't know whether JPEG Mini would suggest it doesn't work with PNGs. That's quite handy, isn't it? Having one that works with PNGs.
I would imagine it does, yeah. I mean, Tiny PNG it's called Tiny PNG, but it will work with JPEGs and stuff. And I would imagine JPEG Mini also does that. Yeah, I used to use JPEG Mini, but I liked Tiny PNG better.
Fair dues. Right, from Facebook, Kev, yours.
Okay, Casey Sisterson, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, look at that. Casey, sister, son. Isn't that a cool name? Sister, son, dad, mum. That'd even be better. Question from the pair of you. What is one feature that doesn't exist today on digital cameras that you believe would be a game changer? I'm going to have a rump for this.
The little button that goes, I'd like that back, please.
Yeah, your manual focus button. Yeah.
Well, you suggested like you're going to go into a rant mode.
No, not at all. But I do you remember we've had this question several times over the years, and I always said I would love it if cameras could you press a button and the image would fly up to the cloud, and then it would be there already. Yeah. And then Frame.io came out many years after I suggested it. I'd like to say I'm saying that in jest, by the way, although it's kind of true. And that happens now. So I can't actually say that. It doesn't exist because that service does exist, Frame.io.
Hang on a moment. Your suggestion was always that you wanted to squeeze it up to the ether, and then it would be retouched and be sitting on your desk, all done by the time you got home.
Well, that's what it can do.
Does it do that? Does Frame.ai do that as well? Then does it?
No. So with a little bit of workflow effort, you could do it. So it would. I presume I've not used it, so I don't know. But I'm guessing it sends the images. I think it's mostly used for movie stuff at the minute, but I think probably stills would be all right. So I am making quite a lot of assumptions in this, by the way. You can send it off up to a folder, and then you can just write a script on your computer to look at, monitor that folder and apply a Photoshop action. That I could do that in 5 minutes, write that script. And so you can, if you know what you're doing, you can do it. And also I would imagine that right now people are writing packages and software tools, and people who are much cleverer and got bigger foreheads than all of us will be on that case. So that was my overall dream, was press a button, picture goes up to Dropbox or whatever and gets edited and drops into your Lightroom folder. All of that is very, very easy to do now, I think, with this new technology. So it does not exist anymore. But Casey, if you'd have asked me this a year and a half ago, I would have said that's what I want, and now it's there.
I just want my button back, Kev.
Yeah, you just want your button.
I just want my button.
Okay, so let's answer the question properly then. And Casey, what is one feature that doesn't exist today on digital cameras generally, rather than just on one particular one, that you believe would be a game changer? For me, it would be the fabled global shutter, I think, is the terminology they use. What that actually means, I don't know. But essentially, my dream digital camera would be one that you can just look through it with almost like a human eye and get that exposure. So here, as I'm looking at my screen now, I've got good exposure of my screen in my eyesight, but also good exposure of the wall behind it. Point my camera at that, all bets are off. The screen will be well exposed at the expense of everything else. So that would be my dream. I'm not sure if global shutter is the terminology. It's the right terminology.
I'm not sure that's the right, but I know what you mean. So if I'm looking beyond me at the moment at the door frame, which is perfectly exposed white, and in the foreground, my computer screen is it's fuzzed out a bit, of course, and yeah. Oh, by the way, that whining is the dog in the background. I'm looking after him because he went to have his operation the other day, Kev, and I need to make sure he doesn't lick the parts other dogs shouldn't lick.
He's never going to be a dad, then, is he?
Those days of 500 or 600 quid a pop are done. Barney, you need to lie down, darling. We're just answering the global shutter problem. And unless you've got something to add into this conversation, there we go. Yeah, that would work. I tell you the other thing. Actually, now we're on a roll with it, Kev. What about some sort of? I'm going to use the wrong terminology, but while we're talking global, a global lens, a lens that could be any focal length you want. It's just one lens that does everything. It's an 85 or a 35. I know you might say it's a zoom, but you could choose. 35 or 55, 85. That one lens on one camera. With a full range that has just the most incredible range from really, really wide to reasonably long.
Yeah, imagine that.
In a small, not pancake. I'm not expecting a pancake lens, but something maybe twice the width of a pancake lens. How about that, Kev? Well, I mean, what a powerful thing that would be.
Yeah,
optics like eyes. Optics like eyes.
Optics like eyes. I think my one might come first in terms of when the brainy people figure it all out.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's not a bad idea.
That'd be a nice one.
Take away a lot of the. I don't know whether I don't know whether that would, and also the same idea of not really having to put much effort into exposure. It takes away the bit of the challenge of it, doesn't it?
It does. Yeah.
It's like using a mobile phone, isn't it? You just point and it comes out nice.
Yeah.
So anyway, there we go. Good question, Casey.
All done. Right, let's have our guest for this week, Christina Varroksina. Now, Christina's work, she's one of the new ambassador in the new ambassador lineup. There's 4 photographers in it now in the ex-photographer lineup. We have spoken to 2 of them, actually. You spoke to Pete? Mm-hmm. How long ago was that?
I can't remember.
We've got Mr. Whisper to come and Christina. Christina, today, we talk about her projects, which, and I should just probably reverse a little on the introduction I made about half an hour ago when I mentioned the F word, fashion, because although Christina does shoot models in her work, she champions the work, the body, the persona, the image of what might be termed unconventional beauty in a world of photography that looks for a more, certainly in terms of agencies, homogenized look when it comes to advertising. So we're going to talk about 3 things across our 2-parter. A project where, as a photographer, she's made a self-portrait study to reveal her vulnerability. A project called The Essence of Beauty, which challenges, as I was mentioning, the more conventional advertising approach. And then the hows and the whys of becoming a Fujifilm ex-photographer in the ambassadorial lineup in the UK. Let's meet Christina Varroksina. Christina, before we even talk about your photography, your amazing photography and your career, how was the dentist?
It didn't basically, they didn't start any treatment. They just looked at my tooth that was causing me problems. And they said that we would need to set up another appointment because it's going to take a long time to deal with it.
I like to walk into a dentist for them to do something and then for me to walk away all completely cured.
I'm with you on that. But
I feel for you. Right. Your love affair with visual imagery starts quite young as a child, doesn't it? It sounds like your favourite classroom was the one in the art block.
It is. Yeah. It's, I just loved drawing as a kid when I was, 4 or 5 years old, as young as I can remember myself. I would draw portraits of everyone around me, of all my family, and then friends when I got older. So it was a way of, I guess, capturing someone that I really liked.
Yeah. Have you still got those portraits?
I think my mom still has some of them, hopefully. Maybe some of my friends have kept them over the years, hopefully. Yeah. But I personally, I don't. Yeah.
It would be an incredible thing to find them again, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
You took that through to graphic design, but graphic design wasn't something you remained in. And I wondered why, because you went to college, you went to university to learn that, didn't you?
Yeah, I studied architecture and interior design first, and I thought, well, it's not really my thing. Let me try graphic design. Because at that time I was already working at a graphic design firm and then at an advertising agency as a graphic designer. Yeah. And I thought I should get like a proper master's degree in graphic design. And then I just got, disillusioned in it as well.
Was it that the advertising work didn't appeal to your soul, or am I thinking too much about it?
No, I think when I just started, when I was really young, I thought it was really a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And, coming up with all these creative ideas and stories. But then the longer I worked in it, the more I realized that the idea that you have in the beginning and then the result that you get towards the end, they are completely different. Yeah. So I just felt like it wasn't me. Yeah, and I saw other people who are, the photographers, the directors that the agency would hire to implement, to bring those ideas to life. They were having much more fun than me sitting at an office. And then I just thought, yeah, I want to be one of those guys.
That's how the photography starts, but obviously it took a while to build a reputation. You're, what is it, about 10, 11 years now a professional?
Yeah, probably even a bit more, but yeah.
And where did all the studying happen? Because I know you were born in Russia, weren't you?
Yes. And then in 2010, I moved to the US to get another master's now in photography. And as I moved, I started working right away as a photographer because that was the only way to sustain myself in a new country where I had no full-time job. It wasn't a very regular income, but it was good. But at that point, you just take any client you find. So yeah.
These days, of course, things have changed. I would imagine now you can be a lot more fussy about what you take and who you work with.
Yes. Luckily, I can be a bit more selective, and I can have that purpose in mind. Like this is the direction I want to go. This is the type of clients I want to work for. But those ones are probably not my priority.
When I look at your work, I don't. This might sound strange, but I look at some photographers' work and I think I can imagine you working with a cast of thousands. But when I look at your work, it looks so much more intimate, and it doesn't look like the sort of thing where you would necessarily be working or embracing a studio full of people. It's a very intimate way that you have with your clients.
Yeah, in many projects it is the case when I try to minimize the amount of people on set, and I try to create that intimate atmosphere, especially when there's nudity involved. And I know that the person who I'm photographing would be more relaxed if there are not a lot of people standing and looking at them than looking at the screen. But I think it really depends on the job. I don't mind having lots of people on set. It can be really fun, and everyone has their own job, so they're focused on what they need to be doing. So it can be really fun and helpful, especially with my personal projects. I enjoy that time when I can be basically alone with the subject, and we can chat and we can discuss all kinds of personal things and connect.
Well, talking about personal projects, I suppose the ultimate personal project is one where you study yourself. And you've been doing that through your self-portraiture. They're just the most extraordinary pictures. And I wonder if I pull a few out, you could explain what the project's about and why perhaps you appeared a certain way in a particular picture. First of all, why the self-portraiture? Why that project? Why was that precious to you?
I'm just trying to remember how it all started, but I think after I graduated, I had this goal in mind. I had to get into this commercial world and, start building my commercial career and get as much income through clients and, And then as years went by, I felt that I needed another creative outlet where I could just be really honest with myself and also with the world, with the message that I wasn't able to tell through other genres of photography. And I think I just decided to experiment. Why don't I just photograph myself and see if it works? And then when the pandemic happened, and finally I had more time to just look into it, look into myself, and decide what was really important to me. What was it? The money? Was it the career? Or was it something else? And I just started pulling out those things that, what really made me. And I thought, if I'm going to do that project, it has to be myself that will be in front of the camera.
Well, and it's a very intimate, the pictures aren't completely nude, but they are practically, many of them. That's not the focus of the project, I know, but it does mean that you've laid yourself literally bare, and which is an uncomfortable thing, I would imagine, in photographic terms. Or did you find it wasn't as uncomfortable as you suspected?
The first ones were really uncomfortable. I was really afraid if I'm going to share it, because I had students, my former students who followed me. I had, my mom, for example, like how people would react to it. I had no idea, and it was scary. But it wasn't uncomfortable to shoot because it was just me and the camera. But I was conscious of not revealing too much. And I also thought at the moment that if I cannot show my vulnerability, that people would just not believe me. So I had to, show that other side, like the vulnerable side of me.
Well, the vulnerability actually is the subject of each picture. There's one particular one I'm looking at here where you must have had somebody help you here, because there's no way you could have drawn on yourself quite so well. Unless you can, I don't know. But there's the picture, and I've seen something like this with regard to mental health in the past, and I don't know whether that inspired you or this was totally fresh in your mind, but it's so powerful. There's the word ugly written upon your forehead for a start, and then other messages that are not kind messages that you've written or that are on your body, things that you feel about yourself. Was that a reflection of the time it was taken? Was that one of the pictures made during the lockdown at all?
It was actually right before the lockdown. I just moved to London and I met this really amazing, we've become friends since then, makeup artist, and I asked her if she would collaborate with me on this self-portrait. And so she helped me drawing all those words. And I remember us both non-native English speakers looking up the words. What other word can we find? That descriptive word of that self-talk, of that negative self-talk that we, especially as women, we often experience about our own appearance, but other qualities as well. So it was really important to me to let it out, because that's the negative talk I had for years.
The photograph with the red twine all around you, I was trying to decipher the message on that one.
I think if you when you just look at it, instead of trying to decipher the message, verbally decipher it, if you just ask yourself what it makes me feel, as opposed to what it makes me think. And usually people say, if it's really uncomfortable, I feel restrained, I feel suffocated, I feel all these emotions that come to you. And so that's what I wanted to basically reflect. And I wanted the viewer to feel it. I just wanted the viewer to feel what I felt at the moment.
It is an extraordinary self-portrait project, and I recommend you go look at this. There are others, Christina, such as the one where you're covered in sticking plasters, which I read as almost fighting fires in your life, where you're constantly solving a problem with a sticking plaster, and before you got a chance to sort it out, another one comes along, and you end up just one big sticking plaster. And I guess because they are untitled on your website, that you're inviting us to work out how you are feeling.
I think it's really good when people have that personal response. They try to to understand, oh, how I would have felt if I were in that position, or this is what it makes me feel. I don't want the viewer to exactly know, oh, this is what it is about. Yeah. And then you move on. That image doesn't stay with you. But I think if there's a bit of a mystery to it, or a bit of a puzzling kind of feeling, then you can hopefully think about it more, and it will stay with you more. And everyone can either relate to it or can find that explanation within themselves. And so for me, it could have been about one thing, but for you, it could be about something, another maybe painful experience in your life that you can sort of relate to.
Well, they're extraordinary pictures. Is there a sense of closure on the project now, or is this ongoing?
It's ongoing.
It is ongoing. The Essence of Beauty is the other one that I wanted to discuss with you. I'm really taken by this work. It's a project, a story, if you like, about unconventional beauty. But let's start by unpicking those two words, unconventional beauty. What do you mean by that?
The whole idea why I started that project came to me while I was closely connected to the industry of fashion and beauty. I was photographing a lot of beauty and fashion campaigns and lookbooks and editorials and whatnot. And at some point, I just felt like I'm not bringing any change into this industry or into the visual media in general. I'm just kind of perpetuating the same narrative. And the narrative is like, you have to, as a woman, but as a man as well, you have to, there's a certain standard that you're supposed to look like, and you have to follow that standard. Otherwise, you're not worthy of love, attention, all these other things of successful life attached to it. And I thought it was really wrong, because this is, how I wouldn't, like to talk to myself or my children, for example, or someone younger than me. This is not the message what I wanted to give to those people. And I thought I should start a project that would talk about beauty in other words and find an answer to what beauty actually is, as opposed to these conventional standards that we see in advertising and fashion.
Do you think social media and the sort of swipe right culture is that's something that perhaps has perpetuated this?
Definitely. And sometimes I'm afraid that it has made it even worse, especially for the younger generation who are using these beauty filters and all that, it's super unrealistic expectations of what a face or body should look like. I understand where it comes from our own insecurities. But then again, where do those insecurities come from?
So you went out to look for sitters that were unconventionally beautiful. How did you find them?
It started, I think the first picture that actually inspired me, the first photo shoot that I did with she's a professional model. So she does some fashion and beauty work. And I met her on a shoot for another project. And she had alopecia. And so I was just amazed by that inner light, how you can still feel super beautiful, super confident, even if you have this condition. And she moved like a cat. And I thought, oh, what if I find a cat that also looks like her with no hair? And I photographed them together. And there was this very interesting feedback. A lot of people thought it was really cool and got really excited about it and asked me a lot of questions and reshared and posted, and even some magazines featured it. But also a lot of people said, oh, it makes me uncomfortable, or it's disgusting. And I thought, wow, if people still get a response like that, that was 2019. We definitely need to start talking about this.
Yeah.
So I met her accidentally. But then I started looking around me, and the second model who I photographed for this project was a niece of a friend of mine who has a disability. She has a problem with one eye. It's like kind of missing.
I know the picture.
Or she was born with a missing eye, but then she's had some surgeries done to it. But she's absolutely beautiful, and when you meet her, she's just full of that inner light and kindness, and the way she just treats everyone around. You just fall in love with her immediately. And I thought this is the message that I want to get across, that when we meet someone, we don't really judge them by, all these conventional standards. We just think, do we want to be more around this person, or do we want to have nothing with them? And so, that's how it kind of continued. And I was looking around me, finding people through social media a lot, actually, through friends as well. And even through this agency called Zebedee Models.
I know of Zebedee. I spoke to the founders a couple of years ago, and they were leading the way at the time, weren't they?
Yeah, and I really enjoyed working with them, and we still work. And so they're really.
Are there more diversity agencies now, or so the big well-known agencies where, in inverted commas, conventional beauty is championed by them? Have they started to move more into markets where diversity and the kind of portraits we're talking about here is allowing more people to work who are not Instagram beautiful, as it were?
Yeah, I think there are agencies who add other boards of more real-looking people.
Yeah.
I mean, there have been like curvy boards and things like that, but they still, even if they find women or men, or non-binary individuals, that the body is not that traditional model standard skinny, they're still beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so there's still that selection happening. But luckily, I think some of the agencies started realizing that actually there's a demand to see real people who don't look like models. And I think it's a great trend.
And Christina will join us for part 2 next time, Kev. Right, we should give a healthy mention and a big hearty thank you. They had, it was a bonus edition last time, wasn't it, where you spoke with pick-time.com. We got a bit more in-depth about the use of the software. So our thanks to PickTime for sponsoring this show, for being our wing people. They certainly are, aren't they? Because it's software that both yourself and I use. If you haven't used PickTime before, if you've just joined us for the first time, if you're thinking, what on earth is PickTime? Kev will now tell you.
Yeah, so PickTime is, if you're a professional photographer, almost essential nowadays, I would say. It's far more than an online gallery system. It's an entire way of archiving your work. It's a beautiful gallery system. You can now do blogging throughout it and embed that either directly through their system or into something like Squarespace. You can sell your prints. You can do everything with it, and it's definitely the thing that I think both Neil and I would be the very, 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 very last thing that we would cut out of our business if we had zero money. You can get 1 month free with the code FujiCast, all uppercase. Pick-time.com. And if you are listening to this and you hadn't listened to the last episode, if you listen to the last episode and you wait till the very end, you will hear my little interview with Amir and Naritu, who are the founders of PickTime, and they talk a lot about the way that they interact with the community, and also especially about this new blogging platform that they're building into PickTime, which is part of the price. You don't pay any extra for it.
You're going to use the blogging thing, aren't you? You said you were going to use it for a specific purpose. Am I right about that? Or have I got that wrong? Did I dream that, Kev? I've since slept, of course. Yeah, no, we did have a conversation about it, and it was a private conversation that I told not to say publicly. Oh, but right. You did. No, I'm joking. We did have a conversation, and I can't remember whether it was on air or not. But anyway, yes. So I'm going to do it. I'm going to try and do when weddings start up again, which for me is in 2 weeks. Yeah, I've got one in 2 weeks. Will be a private blog for the clients only and their friends and family. Yeah, really nice idea. How does that change? Well, I'm not being a devil with this, but or an advocate, but how does that change then by just having the normal gallery and a blog? I'll just be a little bit more rather than thinking. So, well, okay, let's put it like this. Whenever you write a blog post on your website, currently, right, that the entire focus and the practical reason of that blog post is to attract future clients, not to pacify previous clients, correct? So the idea I have is to do these private blog posts, which is as a gift.
to those clients, those existing clients, of that particular wedding.
Okay.
It might include more photos. It might include a little bit more anecdotal text. But the idea is that that's for them.
Right.
Whereas the blog post that goes onto my public-facing website is not for them. Never has been. Never will be. That is purely, entirely for future clients to hopefully take a look at and go, "We love you, Kev. Here's some money."
we always love you, Kev. How important are blogs, by the way? Now, I read, the only reason I ask this is because I was reading. I can't remember where I read it. I was reading something recently about the dissatisfaction with social media, and in particular the old Instagram argument at the moment of people saying, "Oh, it's not very good for searching anymore. I'm getting less and less work through it. Doesn't seem as relevant because it's always showing you stuff you don't want to see, and people
they're using it wrong."
And so blogging is becoming more important all over again. What do you mean they're using it wrong? I mean, if you post, you post.
They're using Instagram wrong. It's Instagram is driving probably 3/4 of my inquiries.
What? Really?
Yeah.
How? What?
Inquiries are way down for everybody. I think we all know that. Wedding inquiries. But yeah, I mean, I would say over 50% of my inquiries come through Instagram. Yeah,
it's going down. It's going down. It's going down by the second there, Kev.
Well, okay, it's. I don't know the exact number, is what I'm saying, but it's substantial. It's enough for me to know that it's it's a good thing.
It's at least 20%.
Yeah, four. but no, I mean, okay, right. Hang on a sec. I'll bring.
You're
up
very good because you actually keep data. You're a bit like a. Oh, that's data sound for you.
That's my database coming up. Yeah, I have it all in an Access database.
Careful, Kev, because if you've got TikTok on that same machine, you know who's going to be watching.
TikTok. Right. Okay. So here we go. My last 5 inquiries.
Yeah.
Okay. Georgina found me through a friend.
Yeah.
Emily found me on Google.
Yeah.
Larry found me on Instagram.
Yeah.
Alex did not give me a reason. Ollie found me on Instagram. Charlene said social media. Poppy said searching documentary photography on Instagram. Hannah, Google. Brittany, I followed you in your work for many years. Sarah, Google. Marcus, Google. Laura, Google. Gabby actually says #wedding photographer UK on Instagram and seeing your beautiful work in the feed. Gabby said she heard about me from you. Sarah was Google.
I'm glad I featured somewhere in there.
So I could keep going, but yeah there's enough. And so Instagram is I'm not. We've had this conversation so many times before.
Well, we haven't though, because parameters have changed a lot with that social platform, where a lot of people are really not satisfied with it anymore and don't see it as part of their cohesive business strategy. He says, almost sounding like he knows what he's talking about. But in Instagram, well, what are you doing with Instagram that's different to other people then, that you should be finding that it's a bit more of a joyous experience when it comes to business for you? How many hashtags are you using? How much are you writing? How many words? How often are you doing it?
I'm just going to go over to the wall and whack my head very hard against it, because I literally had a conversation, and honestly, it was this week. I can't remember exactly what day, but this week must have been Monday. With somebody who I'd spoken to so many times before, regular listener to the show, all that kind of stuff. And I looked at their Instagram, doing all the things that I've suggested. And it's not just me that suggests this, it's just common sense that suggests this, that they don't do. Multiple hashtags, .. hashtag at the bottom, not replying to comments, aggressive guerrilla marketing, like posting every day, every single time at 10 a.m. or whatever. So using automated tools to do it. None of that stuff will lend the algorithms to think that you're an organic social media person. So social media, it's social. It's meant to be social. It's not meant to mean guerrilla marketing, guerrilla advertising. So so what I do is I put a picture up when I feel like it. I write some text. I reply to the comments when I can. I use no more than 3 or 4 hashtags. I don't break it, don't try and bend the rules, don't try and do anything. And also I don't get stressed by it. And the next person who says to me, yeah, it's all right for you, Kev, you've got 34,500 Instagram followers, I will actually just
no, Kev,
get the judo belt out and hit them over the head with it, because we were all, and I'm fed up of saying this as well, we were all born naked. And I started with 0 and you started with 0 and everybody else started with 0. And if you don't put the effort in and you just go, right, I've got an Instagram account. Oh, well, I haven't got any followers. I haven't got giving me any work. I can't be asked for this. It's not working. It is working. Instagram is working. You're not using it correctly. There you go. But yes, blogging is still important.
Be told. It's quite interesting as well that you are using images that I'm fairly familiar with. So, do go back into your catalogue and look for stuff that you're proud of. Is there a chance that sometimes pictures could appear twice in a feed? Let's say about 4 or 5 years apart.
Yeah, absolutely. So what you're looking at is that those recent 2 pictures.
Yes, I am.
I think you must be looking at my Instagram feed now.
I am.
Yeah. So one of the things that I've been doing over the last kind of 6 weeks or so is creating a Lightroom catalog with every single delivered picture that I've given to every client. So I have them all in one Lightroom catalog now. Right. Every single one.
What?
All the way back to 2008.
God.
And what that's enabled me to do is every now and again when I'm going through these pictures is go, oh, I remember that one.
Yeah.
And then I re-edit it. And in some cases, I've re-edited old weddings and put them back on my website, all of that stuff. But yes, so the latest image, which is one of the 2 kids, definitely has been on my Instagram probably within the last 2 years, but it was black and white, I think. So this is color, re-edited it. Yeah.
And I recognise the one with the vicar that looks like he's going for a wedding guest. That looks filthy, Kev. But that is actually...
But that hasn't been on Instagram. I know that.
Is it not? Okay, but the story behind that is that's his wife, isn't it?
That is his wife, yeah. I use it at workshops. That's probably where you've seen that at talks and stuff.
Yeah. It's a cracking picture. That's interesting. Well, while we're on this subject, I know we've talked about this before, Kev, but there's always a new guest along. Camera pictures, I know you've lamented this. They do very well on your feed. I know that it not so much upsets you, but that's just a fact of life, isn't it? Look at that. So we've got a lovely. Let me look at that lovely picture of the vicar and his wife just a moment ago. 756 likes. I know we don't live by likes, but we are for this particular example. But a picture of a camera, which was the XT5. Nicely done, Kev. Nice bit of nice. Well, that's in your studio, isn't it? I like that. Mm-hmm. It's a still life of an XT5, Kev. 1,700. Yep. It's just that is. Oh, look, it's got that button on the front, Kev.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at,
I want the button, Kev.
But what you also have to remember is that my business, to a certain extent, when I was an ambassador, I saw that as my role to kind of do that.
Yeah.
I'm not any longer, so I probably won't be doing those kind of things so much. But that's fine. That's the thing. Mm. It could be anything, but I'm not adverse. There's pictures of Rosa on there. There's a picture of my black belt. You must be fed up with me saying that by now.
Never, but Kev, never.
Mostly it's. When I went to the races with the boys the other day, we got to the train station and said, right now, Kev, the rule of the day is you do not mention the judo.
Oh, they should have just done it. For every time you mention judo, you have to buy a bet for them all. That would have stopped you.
Yeah, I know. Well, I am very proud. So anyway, but yes, there you go. But Instagram, honestly, it shouldn't be a drama. And if you find it a drama and you don't like doing it, then fine, find something else that works. But it's the people that say Instagram just does not work for business. Yeah, I'm sorry, they are wrong.
They're not using it correctly.
I'm a wedding photographer business, obviously, but that's it. They're wrong. Yeah. That's the end of it.
I'm
not talking about it anymore. No,
I'm going to ask you one more question. If you could only blog or use Instagram, what would you choose?
Blog.
Right. Okay. It's still got an importance in the business, clearly.
Absolutely. So that goes back right to what you said, at the beginning, because ultimately people will go via Instagram and they'll go to your website, and that's when they'll explore more. But yes, I absolutely believe, even with the new kind of the world of AI, chat AI, and all that kind of stuff we're in it. People is, a lot of people are like, yeah, well, now with all of the AI chat stuff, we won't need websites anymore because Google will do it all for us. Or the Bing AI stuff is phenomenal. But they won't, not in our business. People are not going to go to the chat system and say, hey, chat, tell me about 5 wedding photographers who are near me, and then it will give them like 5 bits and pieces. Who is the best? And it will have its opinion. Do any of them do black and white? Yeah, of course, some of them do black and white, blah, 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 blah. But it's not going to show them any pictures or show them pricing and all that kind of stuff. Well, certainly not yet. So your blog is absolutely critical. I think it's still really, 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 really super important.
That is a beautiful picture, by the way, of this, I know, and of your daughter Rosa. What a picture in your studio, Kev! Gorgeous,
yeah,
amazing.
She's lovely.
That's a lovely picture. She looks like she's humouring you slightly. She's got those eyes of. Are we done? Come on, you promised me something for this. No, it is a lovely. All joking aside, what a lovely picture, Kev. That really is beautiful, absolutely beautiful. What about Twitter, Kev? Do you still tweet? Do you like it?
Really.
Are you partial to an odd tweet here and there?
I'm partial to an odd tweet. Yeah, I have to say I still use it if I'm mentioning venues or something like that. I'll still tweet if they've got a Twitter account. Yeah. But yeah, no. I mean, Twitter has never ever been a place for getting clients. It's always been a place for building relationships with venues and stuff,
and having arguments with the director general.
Arguments, yeah. The whole Musk thing has left a very bitter taste.
Yes, I don't like. Do you know? Originally, when you first mentioned it, that you would come off of. Was it you that said you might come off it because of Musk? I think you did say that, Kev.
Yeah, and I haven't actually done the delete thing yet, but no. I probably haven't.
Well, I did at the time. I was thinking, Kev, you're going well over the top here. But I just the culture and the whole thing that's changed about Twitter, it's really disheartening, isn't it? And
it's the poor people that work for him. They work, put their life and soul into it, a lot of them, and then he publicly humiliates them on the own platform they built.
Yeah.
Awful.
Karma, Kev, it'll come. Right, where are we with questions? I thought that was a really interesting bit, though, because so many people use Instagram, and it's never boring to revisit it because there's always something new that's said within the conversation. Shall I go for an email here from Will Collin?
We've probably lost about 500 listeners.
No, not at all. No, not at all. No, not at all, Kev. It's important stuff, but it is still the platform people rant and rave about, but use is that kind of like love to hate. Hi Kev, hi Neil. I wanted to ask about something you've spoken about a couple of times previously on the show. Instagram. No. You felt that coming then, didn't you?
I get my code.
No, it's not about that. You've said before that you sharpen your images as the last step after you finished your main editing. Could you please explain a little more about why you do it at the end of the editing process and not the beginning? He does have a reason for asking this, and this might fill some more information for your answer. My reason for asking is that I've recently started using Topaz Photo AI on some shots. In addition to my usual editing in Capture One, I think Photo AI combines sharpening with denoising and various other corrections. To be honest, I found that if I left it to its own devices, it does tend to overdo stuff, and the exported images can end up looking a bit fake. So generally, I turn down the sliders on everything it does. But that's probably a subject for a different question. Topaz says that Photo AI does its best job when you give it a raw file to work on. Anyway. Is he doing it the wrong way round? Would it be better to use Capture One first, export the edited shot as a DNG, and then put this into Photo AI as the final step? Thank you for your sage counsel. Will Collin.
Well, no, I've noticed that with Topaz AI as well, that when you open it up, it says it's better to use an unedited raw file first, which I don't know the reasoning behind that, but it's clearly right. They know what they're doing far more than we do. But for me, I do use that tool occasionally, but not often, and it's not part of the workflow as such.
No.
But for me, I've always, used it as output sharpening. It's called output sharpening in the export dialog as well. where it's the last thing you're sharpening for the eventual end game of the image, whether that's a print or whether it's for screen. So when I export, I do my sharpening at the end. If I'm exporting for web, I'm sharpening for them for JPEGs. If I'm exporting them to go to print, I'm sharpening them for print, and that's why I always do it at the end.
I have at the end a similar sort of thing to you, but there's a sharpening and there's a denoising going on right at the end of the process. But I have it set up for different ISO ranges.
Yes. Yeah, you can do that. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
It seems to work pretty well. But I have had there's been quite a while where I went through not sharpening anything at all, because I just thought, I don't want this. And that goes back to something we said right at the start of today's show about the unauthentic, over-sharpened, digitalized images. And I found that not sharpening it, to me, to my eyes, to my little eyes, they're not Welsh, felt like it was a bit more authentic, a bit more filmic, maybe. Or am I just kidding myself?
Yeah, well, no, I mean, everybody, the beauty of it is that some people love super sharp images, and they have a place, of course, certainly if it's kind of commercial work. Some people like a little bit of, I mean, there's a whole movement, isn't there, called ICM, intentional camera movement, is it?
Yeah.
So it depends on what your business is, what your workflow is. I certainly wouldn't be jumping through all those hoops of going through a DNG converter into Capture One, I think in this case, then through to the Topaz stuff.
Yeah,
I would just do it at the end.
It sounds
edit and then do it at the end if it's needed.
It sounds way too confusing. That there's so much going on in your workflow.
If you're a fine art photographer and you only work on one image, for example, for any
true.
one time, it might well be a very valid way of doing something.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But if you're doing hundreds upon hundreds of images, that workflow, to my mind, seems way more complex than it needs to be.
Yeah,
but
I think so.
That's just because it's doing hundreds of images. Right, Facebook, Kev, I think we've got time for one more question from Facebook, Kev.
Hang on, I'll close it down. Hold on. Sorry.
The enthusiasm is palpable. I can almost taste it in the ether.
Okay, right. Quick question from Ivan Creeth. He says, quick question for the show. I was wondering what Kevin and Neil think is the opposite of street photography.
House photography. In the house photography. Don't go out photography. I don't know. What's the opposite of street photography? Not going out.
Not going out. I love that show.
I love that show too. We're not going out. We're not staying in. That one, isn't it? Lee Mack, brilliant. I love him. I like Lee.
Yeah. I mean, that's quite a fascinating question in my mind, because if you were to ask that in some of the very highbrow street photography Facebook groups, they would be like, well, if it hasn't got a person and it's not 100% candid, then it's not street photography. Whereas I've always said to people, street photography for me is, my boundary for it is the candid element. But it could be, you could be into architectural photography and you're just you're wandering around the streets and you're looking for lovely buildings and you're looking for the light that's falling on them.
That could be street. There's no reason why that's not street. Yeah.
Absolutely. That's what I'm saying. It doesn't necessarily, in my mind, have to have people in it and all of that kind of stuff. So what is the opposite of street photography? If I was to, if it was me and I was the only one defining it, I would say anything that was not candid is, so I kind of, the candid element is the critical thing for me, but that is absolutely just me. And, there's a lot of people who have a very different opinion.
As Kev says, your mileage may vary.
Indeed it may.
Right, that's it for another time. If you'd like to get your questions in, how are we doing with the questions at the moment, Kev? I think my email box could be a little bit fuller. Facebook's all right. Yeah, not too bad. We've got a trickle. I've still got some to get back through. I've just found a whole load from 2021 never answered. So what, Kev? They'd have tuned out by now. Yeah, they'll be on Steve's Sony cast, won't they?
Yeah, they will. I need to do a new post because it's getting a bit complicated.
Yeah.
People are jumping in and answering the questions and stuff as well.
Yeah.
Which
read them the right at, Kev. Don't they know you've got a black belt? eh?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, and I know how to use Instagram.
Yeah, and you tell them that if they don't stop it, you're going to do some naked jujitsu.
Yeah, we'll get Scott on the show.
Stop them. Right, that's it for another week. If you'd like to send your questions in, if you want to do it by Facebook, Kev, how do we do it?
Facebook, go to Join the FujiCast Facebook group, which is a very nice group, by the way. It's not just about the questions for the show. And post a question in the questions for the show thread.
Please do.
I will do my level best to ignore it for 2 years.
We might get to it. Yeah, and in the meantime, I'll get really humpy that you've not been sending us anything in. Click at fujicast.co.uk has been our age-old email address. Please use that as well. If you'd like to send in some... do you know you can send in... Although we do the picture reviews really as part of our Patreon pop-up, of which we're going to make one now, Kevin, it's going to be out when this programme comes out. But you can send your pictures in because it's always nice to see what you're doing. Click at fujicast.co.uk. Right, that's it, Kev. I'm off to practice naked jiu-jitsu, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
The FujiCast is an independent Loading Zone production. Email the show with your questions and words of wisdom to click@fujicast.co.uk. Email any complaints and political nonsense to our wives, who will deal with your comments in their own good time and in their own good way.